Before I introduce you to my next guest today, I want to make sure that you're aware of a training and coaching resource to help you increase your productivity, clarify your purpose, and improve your communication skills. It's called the Next Level Coaching and Leadership with Purpose programs. To learn more, simply go to warrenwandling.com, and under the programs tab, you'll find both of those resources. Again, that's WARRENWANDLING.com. Now, on to the show. Well, welcome back to How to Become an Obstacle Buster. I'm your host, Warren Wandling, the show that's dedicated helping leaders to overcome their obstacles, build resilience, and achieve success. And I have a great guest to help us do just that today, Ari Galper. Welcome to the show, Ari.
Thank you, Warren. Appreciate having me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. Really fascinating background that you bring to the show today. As the world's number one authority on trust-based selling and founder of Unlock the Sales Game, you revolutionize the sales world with the innovative one-call sales system, helping businesses shift from selling mindset to a doctor mindset so they can create a deep trust in every conversation. As the author of several best-selling books, including Trust in a Split Second, your work has been featured in Forbes and CEO Magazine and other prestigious publications. Can you share with our listeners just a little more about your background?
Sure. So I specialize in trust-based selling and been doing this for a couple decades now. And there's a story behind how this got triggered, which I'll kind of share if you want briefly.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That a premise today, because I think right now that we are very much in what I call a trust recession in the world. Things have shifted a lot. And if you have your own business or you make a living doing some kind of selling, this hopefully will be life-changing for you because it's time for a serious mindset shift. But years ago, I used to be a sales manager in a software company, and we launched the first online website tracking tools. Pretty common now. It's called Google Analytics. But back when we were kind of new to the market, I was managing 18 people underneath me, and I got the leads that were the big whales, the big opportunities came my way. And this one contact gave us a call. I got the phone call. Big, huge company. You recognize the name. Multiple websites. He agreed to a conference call with his team and a demo, which is a normal thing to do. And if I close this one deal, Warren, it would like double the revenue for 1 year, like one transaction. That's how big it was. So the day finally came, 4:00 in the afternoon on Friday. I'm in my conference room with my CEO, big long conference table. There's the old school speakerphones on there. Remember, like the Star Trek looking three legs.
Exactly.
And I hit the speakerphone, dial the number, and my guy picks it up. He's like, "Hey, Ari, how's it going?" I said, "Good." He says, "Let us tell you who's with us on the line today." I said, "Great." Next thing I hear is, "My name's Chris. I'm CEO." Perfect. "My name is John. I'm head of global IT. Amazing. My name's Mark. I'm head of marketing. Perfect." I mean, everyone on this call was a decision maker. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen today. So I went ahead and explained what I do. Then we logged in and walked them through a demo of one of their websites. We actually tested in advance to show them what it looks like to see the stats. As I'm walking them through this, I heard this noise on the phone call like, "Wow, this is great. This is amazing. I can't believe we can see this information for the first time." They started asking me all kinds of questions. How does it work? How do we install it? How does technology work? And of course, they had the questions. I had the answers. It was like a love fest on the phone. You know what I'm talking about? When
Exactly.
they ask you the questions, Warren, you got the answer. You're saying to yourself, what? Yeah, this is a perfect conversation. Of course it's going to happen, right? So an hour goes by. They're loving what I'm showing them. And my contact says to me, "Ari, this is great. We love it. Give us a call a couple of weeks. Follow up with us, and we'll move this thing forward." And I was like, "Oh, thank you, God. What a perfect ending to a great, amazing call." So I said my goodbyes. I reached for the speakerphone to hit the off button. And by complete accident, now with the divine intervention, instead of hitting the off button, I hit the mute button instead by complete accident. They were right next to each other. And a small click happened, and they thought I hung up the phone. Now, as I listened in for a couple of seconds, you might imagine what they may have said. You would expect probably for them to say nice things about what we just had for the last hour. But let me tell you what they said word for word. And so that's why we're all here today. They said this. They said, "We're not going to go with him. Keep using him for more information, and make sure we shop someplace else cheaper." knife in heart twist. I was in a state of shock. I hit the off button. I looked at the wall and I said to myself, what did I do wrong? I was competent. I was professional. I educated them. I answered all their questions, but they felt comfortable not telling me the truth. And that's when I realized there's a game going on here in the sales game, and that there's like two ships in the night passing each other. And there's not enough trust being built out there to allow both parties to feel comfortable telling each other where they stand. And I made it my mission to untangle this dysfunctional relationship, as I call it, and build a new model and a trust-based process to penetrate that wall of distrust and help build trust with people in your sales process in a way that condenses your sales cycle down a short amount of time. That became my whole premise behind trust-based selling.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's a great story. What's fascinating to me is that you allowed that to catapult you to that next level, to really make an impact in your career.
Yeah, that catapulted me. That was life changing when I went behind the scenes, a place where no one's ever gone before, and I heard the truth. When you hear the truth, things change. Otherwise, if I hadn't heard that conversation, I would have accepted that conclusion and chased them forever and never heard back. And I just said to myself, I'm going to crack the code for millions of business out there who are still selling the old way to stop playing those games and stop chasing those ghosts.
So, what do you think is the greatest obstacle your clients encounter?
I think resistance is what they're experiencing right now. I think, I define the last 4 or 5 years what we call the trust recession, where potential prospects have enough information now where they're shopping you. They're shopping to find the right choice for them, like they're in a grocery store. They can't differentiate you over anyone else because all they see is a website or online presence, and so they feel like they're in control. And what happens is when we talk to someone who's a potential prospect, they start asking questions, and what do we start doing? We start doing free consulting, answering questions, give them idea, educate them, trying to deliver value. And the big wake-up call today is that value has been commoditized. So is
Oh,
education.
interesting.
So I tell my clients, stop delivering value. It's a liability pre-sale. It's great once they're a client, but not pre-sale, because others can do the same thing as you. I say stop selling, stop educating, and stop delivering value. Instead, learn how to build trust, which is a brand new skill you have to know to survive in the future.
Wow, that's an interesting belief system that you're kind of inserting in reference to the sales process. So I'm curious, with trust-based communication, you call it, and it sounds like it makes sense that you call it the secret weapon to the CEO and the leader. Can you share a little more detail in reference to how to create that trust?
Sure. So I invented something called the one call sale process that's now patent pending. And all my clients are using this, where if you can get an opportunity or lead into an initial call with them, whether it's a Zoom call or a Teams call or whatever, I've developed a model based upon like a doctor patient kind of construct metaphor versus you trying to sell yourself that eliminates resistance and gets the truth in 30 minutes to the point where they even say to you, I'm in, let's do this. Now, it may not be a signed contract, but it'll be a next step on your calendar. And that one call sale model compresses the sales cycle from multiple steps down to one single step. It's designed for low volume, high margin businesses. And the way it works is you remove all the relationship building component of the sales process. Now, that sounds totally contrarian for me to say this because we're taught that our job is to build a relationship with people first because relationships equals trust, right? That sounds pretty normal. But what I discovered was real relationships take a lot of time before someone trusts you to commit to you. And I figured out, what if I remove the relationship piece altogether and only focus on the trust piece? I would buy time, get a commitment earlier on, and never again have to chase any more ghosts. And that became the whole premise behind our approach. And the way it works is when you meet someone, say on Zoom for the first time, you don't try to become their friend. You don't try to get them to like you. When you go see a doctor, do they say, hey, let's have lunch first? How are you? Tell me about your background. What brought you in? They don't try and build rapport with you, do they? What they say to you is, Warren, where does it hurt? And they go right down what I call the iceberg, which is unpacking your problem, diagnosing it to such a deep level and extent that they say to you, wow. Or they say themselves, he just gets me. He understands me. That's what real trust is. And most professionals, they only go halfway down the iceberg. Once they qualify, off they go to the solution and they lose the trust right there.
Fascinating. So you then have a bank of questions that you train your clients to be able to cut right to the chase in reference to identifying the pain.
Well, yeah, well, we don't use any qualifying questions at all that you might imagine them to be. We have a different model, and it's all based upon empathy and bedside manner, like a nice doctor. Okay. So when they show up, first thing you say is obviously, "Hi, Warren, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you as well." But that's it for chit chat. No more. What brought you in today? What are your goals? How'd you hear about me? That Forget all that. That's sales talk. Instead, here's what you say. You say, if it's okay with you, Warren, if you wouldn't mind, take a step back for a moment. Maybe walk me through your background, your situation, up to your current, business concerns or financial concerns, whatever you sell, and we'll go from there. Would that be okay with you? You ask permission twice, and you take your fingers like this, put over your mouth, and sit back on a chair like that, like a therapist, and don't say a word. They have to see that it's not about you today, visually. You're not going to talk. You're not going to engage them. You're not going to become their friend. This is not a social conversation. You're the doctor. You're now helping them to feel comfortable revealing to you what their problem is. So you have a set of trust-based questions to unpack that problem to the extent where you can help them see the gravity and the seriousness of it and the cost of it. So you're going down the iceberg, not straight to the sale.
So within that process, you'd mentioned in the beginning of that statement that it doesn't matter what the price point. You also can use the same strategy in a high ticket sale,
This is
which
actually designed for low volume, high ticket opportunities. It's not designed for like e-commerce or short sales. It is designed for a long sales cycle that people are in, a high price point, high margin businesses like advisory services, software businesses, construction projects, anything that's a large purchase. This is cuts a knife right through the whole thing.
the shift in your philosophy of the sales, obviously this theory that you shared with us earlier made that transition. Internally, how did you identify that this was this like the secret sauce in reference to changing the sales game?
Well, what I discovered was that we were seeing a lot of clients trying to flex on their conversations. Flex means trying to persuade, prove their value, show their expertise. Because I think a lot of us believe in the back of our mind that our job is to prove ourselves. We got to prove to them that we're worthy enough to help them with their problem. But the irony of the whole thing is, I discovered this. They don't really care about how you solve their problem. They assume you probably can. You're a professional. That's why they showed up. They're not questioning your efficacy. In fact, they can't judge your efficacy until after they're a client, not before they're a client, because there's no work being done yet. So there's no value or purpose for you to attempt to defend yourself, persuade, educate, or prove yourself anymore. Doctor doesn't say to you, here's where I went to school. Here are my clients. Here's what I do. They just unpack your problem in a very artful way, but go down to what I call the cost of inaction. That's something unique I developed, where you help them understand the cost of what it's costing them not to solve their problem. Reverse engineering it to help them see the impact. Then at the end of that, you just ask this question. You'd say, is this a priority for you to address and resolve once and for all? I'm okay if it's not, but I'd like to know from you, is it? You're having them own the problem. You're not taking on yourself. See, both experts say, oh, I can fix they size up the problem real quick in their brain. They heard it 100 times. They go, yeah, oh yeah, I can help you with that. Come on over here. And they bypass the entire trust process, and they get at the end of the meeting, you know what happens? The prospect says to them this. They say, I'd like to think about it. And they end up chasing them.
Yeah, so that's fascinating. So for a sales professional, leader, entrepreneur that's listening to our podcast today, they have to unlearn strategies that they have maybe at the subconscious level practice. They know it really well at that level. What technique would you tell a sales leader, entrepreneur to be able to implement your process with ease?
Well, first, they have to be willing and humble enough to what I call fall on their own sword and realize they're using skills from 1980s and 90s and 2000s don't match the current economy anymore. Prior to COVID, People weren't as armed and ready to shop around. They trusted experts on the fly. Now they're coming into your meeting with you with their guard up, challenging you, questioning you, and shopping you. And you are on the defensive. Okay? The game has changed. If you're attempting to use what you currently know in the new economy, you're in serious trouble. You'll end up playing what I call the numbers game. Talking to a lot of people with the hope at the end you get a couple. Not in our world. See, we don't use the typical funnel where you put a lot of leads at the top. You spend all your time talking to everybody in the middle, and at the end a few marbles come out. That's how most people think. Most companies think. We think differently. So we have what we call a cylinder model, where you just drop in only the top of your ideal clients. You build enough trust with them, they all come out at the bottom, right? Massive improvement in conversion rates. So if you're in a low volume, high margin model, you should not be playing the volume game. And if you are, it's because you're still wedded to your old ways of thinking.
So if you had a sales professional that's going to implement your process, but they have that fear of rejection, what would be the first step for them to be able to implement this system?
Well, the nice thing about the system is it eliminates rejection at hello. There is no rejection. There's no resistance. Because here, let me tell you, the reason why rejection occurs is because it's triggered by the seller. The things they say, the things they do, their approach, their tonality, their speed, all the stuff I was telling you before, the engagement, the relationship, the peer, hey, how's it going? Here's a demo. That is what triggers the rejection. It's on the responsibility of the seller to deal with this, not the buyer, right? So they have to be willing to clear their hard drive, so to speak. Be open-minded and humble and say to themselves, you know what? Whatever I'm doing right now is not working. And I got to be willing to learn a new way of thinking and be open to it. And it is a journey. It's like a dojo, it's white belt, green belt, brown belt, black belt. It's not instant, but you have to, read my book. You got to learn about this and follow the breadcrumbs, because this is a wholesale shift in your thinking. We are now, in trust recession. Okay. And if you aren't consciously having the skills to embed trust in your process right now, you're just selling, you're going to hit resistance. And my big concept today is stop selling altogether. Just don't go any more sales training classes anymore. Stop all reading sales books. Focus only on trust building, because the game is up. They know it at hello. They can tell when you're being, doing the whole rapport thing. Oh, I brought you in today. Hey, tell me about you. They know the game's over, but they're just playing with you. You're going to be stuck just like I was on that conference call years ago.
Does this also apply then, even though it's a cylinder, filling that cylinder with the high trust? So do you use the same process in the prospecting game?
Yeah, good point. So there's lead generation and conversion, right? So we covered today the whole conversion concept. The lead generation is actually similar, but the difference is what you're doing is you're engaging somebody on prospecting or marketing. You're not engaging them around your solution. You're engaging them around the problem that you help them solve, okay? That you can help them solve. So you have to know in advance what 3 or 4 core problems are of your market. So when you're reaching out, whether it's a phone call or marketing, you have to market the problems, not your solution. It's too premature to the trust building process to talk about you at all. So if you're making an outbound phone call, here's how most people do it. Hi, my name is Ari. I'm with XYZ company, and it's over at hello right there. And the minute you say hi, it's like, oh no. So we have a different approach where you're not triggering resistance, okay? And it goes like this. The phone rings, they say hello, say, hi, John. My name's Ari, and I'm hoping you can help me out for a moment. No excitement, no enthusiasm, no introduction of me. I'm irrelevant. All we're trying to do is create what I call a two-way dialogue. And any human being, if you enter a call like that, being relaxed, calm, and soothing, is going to say to you, how can I help you? Because you could be anybody. You could be from the White House. You could be the IRS. You could be a client. You don't know. They're going to say, how can I help you? And you have an initial trust at hello. Then you have a process where you go from there, what I call, you start with your problem statement. You say, I'm just giving you a call to see if you'd be open. That's the key word. Not interested. That's a sales word. We have a whole language set that's trust-based languaging that replaces sales languaging. So would you be open to some ideas and insights, not information? Information is the worst thing to ever provide people. It's commoditized. They don't want information. They want insights. Any insights on the issues you may be having around X, Y, and Z. You enter the conversation already knowing what their problems are. Now, if you're in a niche market, you already know what their problems are. You're already in that market. It's not like it's a mystery. Just got to think. The shift here is problem centric instead of solution centric.
Hmm. So if our listeners wanted to really master your process, that one call sale, what's the first step that they should take?
Well, if I were them listening to this and it resonates with them, I'll probably get a copy of my book at www.thetrustbook.com. You can get a copy for free there. It's not digital. Sorry, it's going to come in the mail, a real old
Uh-huh.
school one. You're going to hold in your hand, and you can have a chat with us when you come through that process there. We can talk through where you're stuck because you're going to have to be willing to learn this. It's not like an instant, oh, got it. You're going to have to be willing to unravel and eliminate and let go of the subconscious that says to you, make the sale, prove yourself, show them you're good, become their friend. All the old school stuff is still stuck in their back of their head. So I would say get that book as soon as you can.
Yeah, perfect. And I'll make sure that link is in the show notes.
Thank you.
So leadership is influence. So what are some strategies that you train your clients to be able to increase that level of influence?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of what we're talking about today is not just trust-based selling. It's trust-based communication. And this applies to all relationships in life. Marriages, kids, teams, leaderships, nothing it's like unique just to selling. But the key thread among all of this is for leaders to be able to stay focused on the issues and problems with their teams and to use empathy. And when they're counseling them or coaching them, and not trying to put them in a corner where they got to prove themselves, but instead help them feel comfortable telling you the truth of where they're at. Because if you as a leader can have a team that's comfortable telling you the truth of where they're at in every step of the project, then together you can work together as a group to solve problems. So you just got to shift to different languaging and different words you might be using. For instance, you wouldn't say to someone on your team, let's just say a sales environment, some of the words that I would use rather than, interested, would you be open? Another key phrase is, where should we go from here? Right? Rather than saying, can you get that to me? There's certain words you can use depending on the scenario that takes the roughness out of it and softens the conversation. And we can talk about it later on if you want more scenarios around that. But there's more of that in the book at thetrustbook.com.
Yeah, I love that idea on that trust, really giving the listeners really a new strategy to live in that world that you're calling the trust recession. So making sure that you're addressing the key issue, not sharpening your sales skills, but reshaping your sales skills.
And here's the key to all this. If you get this right, get really good at this, and you have your own business and you're an entrepreneur, you can create what I call your own trust economy in your own ecosystem around you. Your vendors, your clients, your staff, you can use the same process around everything inside your world where you protect it like your own little garden, right? You don't overfeed it. You don't let the weeds get in there, but you protect it, you grow it, because nature shows us tips and signals for how to build our business as well. And humans need trust. And if you aren't fertilizing your garden with trust, just being your normal self like you always are, you're in for a rude awakening.
So success leaves clues, and one of those clues, I believe, are the books that leaders read. What are some key books that you've read in your career that have impacted you?
The one so far that's the most is by Perry Marshall called
Mm,
80/20 Sales and Marketing.
yes,
Um,
excellent book.
Very good book. He's one of my friends and mentors. So that really cuts through the noise, as you know. That's a great one. Gosh, so many from Dan Kennedy as well. And Flow as a classic one years ago. But I think 80/20 Sales and Marketing is probably the most relevant and the most timeless of all.
Yeah, perfect. And our listeners, if you have not gotten that book, that's an excellent read along with Ari's book as well.
Well, I appreciate that. And I have a new one coming out too called The Trust Economy. How to
Oh, interesting.
create your own ecosystem with trust in your own environment to not worry about the external economy that you might be worried about. Gives you a lot of confidence to build your business in a different way.
Interesting. Definitely look forward to that book when that comes out. But definitely looking forward to it.
Sounds good. Thank you, Warren.
So, what are the special projects that you're working on?
Well, I'm working on a really cool AI project right now. It's not the typical type in a question, here's an answer, but I'm working on something called Ari in your ear, where
Interesting.
you'd have a little microphone in your ear here, a speakerphone or whatever you call it, and it'll analyze your live conversation on Zoom just like this. And in real time, it'll give you little voices, hints to say, slow down, Warren. Don't talk so fast. Don't talk about yourself. Listen longer. And it'll in real time coach you, and you'll hear my voice, and you can call a phone number and get my advice, and it'll all be real time.
That's fascinating. And that sounds like a powerful tool in reference to using AI in real time to be able to analyze someone's pacing and tonality. Like you mentioned, those are key aspects in those first opening questions.
Yep. And it's about cadence. It's about working from the heart, not the head. It's about empathy. And most people who sell aren't conscious of that. They just work on momentum, connection, and moving them towards a sale. And boy, if you're doing that and you're burning these leads and not calling you back and you're chasing opportunities, I'll leave one more. How about one more big tip for everybody?
Okay, yeah, that'd be perfect.
Perfect. Okay, this is a big bomb I'm about to drop. So I'm going to ask all your listeners to never again, as of this recording, to use the word follow up ever again. Don't ever write in your emails. Don't use it on the phone. Erase it from your vocabulary. Because the only industry that uses the word follow up is what? Sales. Hi, I'm
Sales.
calling to follow
Yeah.
up. And the minute you use that word, they associate you with that negative image, and it's over. They don't trust you. The guard's up. So rather than saying, hi, I'm giving you a call to follow up, here's what you say instead. You say, I'm giving you a call to see if you have any feedback on our previous conversation,
Oh, wow.
any feedback on our last meeting, any feedback on a proposal I sent you. Feedback's going backwards, away from momentum, not forwards. Follow up is heading towards a sale. You're in trouble if you're still using all those words like that, and you're going to be playing the numbers game for a long time. I'd recommend you get my book, thetrustbook.com, as fast as possible. Start reading it. Schedule a chat with us. Let us analyze your situation and give you some insights you can't get to now. Really.
Yeah, perfect. That's like I love that tip in reference to that simple switch in reference to language, but giving the power actually to the client, but you're guiding the conversation.
You need to have the languaging to elicit enough trust to get to the truth. If you're not doing that, you're above the iceberg, not below it.
Yeah, very good. So, if our listeners wanted to connect, which I know they will want to definitely get your book, other than that one link that you've already shared, other ways to be able to connect?
Obviously, on LinkedIn, you can type in my name, arigalper.com, my website as well, arigalper.com. Yeah, Ari Galper on LinkedIn. But I think the fastest way through to get ROI on this is to get my book. It's free. I'll mail it to you. I'll pay for the postage, thetrustbook.com. Schedule a chat with one of my team to talk through your situation. They'll diagnose it for you and they'll help you. They'll help you see things you can't see on your own. They'll help you see gaps, things you're saying that you'd be shocked. They'll have you bring your emails in, we'll look at them and go, oh my God, you're saying that? Oh, you're right. It'll be so cathartic for you to have someone from the outside really understand your perspective from a trust perspective and how well you're doing or not.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you for your time and sharing your sites and strategies for our listeners so they can overcome their obstacles, build resilience, and achieve success.
Thank you so much, Warren.
This is your host, Warren Wandling, saying until next time, be an obstacle buster and be resilient.